The docking bay of Nexus 7 hummed with the constant flow of ships from a dozen different worlds. Steam hissed from cooling engines while alien voices echoed across the metallic corridors. Marcus Webb stepped off his cargo hauler, his weathered boots clicking against the grated flooring. After 3 months hauling medical supplies to the outer colonies, all he wanted was a hot meal and a quiet corner to rest. The station buzzed with activity. Traders from every corner of the galaxy gathered here, where 3 major trade routes intersected. Marcus pushed through crowds of tentacled merchants and crystal-skinned diplomats, following signs toward the commercial district. The air tasted metallic, filled with the scent of exotic spices and engine fuel. He paused at a food stall run by a friendly Altarian, ordering something that smelled like grilled meat. While waiting, Marcus noticed her. She stood in the shadows between 2 vendor booths, her pale blue skin almost glowing under the harsh station lights. Her people, the Kellery, were rare this far from their homeworld. She was young, maybe 20 in human years, with silver hair that caught the light like starshine. What struck Marcus wasn't her beauty, though she was stunning. It was the fear in her violet eyes as they darted nervously through the crowd. She moved like a hunted animal, every muscle tense and ready to run. Their eyes met across the busy marketplace. For a moment, time seemed frozen. Then she moved toward him with careful steps, like approaching a dangerous predator. Marcus felt his heart rate quicken. Something about this felt wrong. Dangerous. Human, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the marketplace noise. Her accent was melodic, each word carefully pronounced. I need your help. Marcus glanced around nervously. What kind of help? She stepped closer, close enough that he could smell the strange floral scent of her skin. Her violet eyes were wide with desperation. Take me tonight. Use me. Even if you leave me with child, I don't care. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He staggered backward, nearly knocking over another customer. What did you just say? Please, she continued, her voice breaking. I am Zara of the Kellery. I offer myself to you for one night. Do with me what you will, but please, claim me as yours. Marcus's mind raced. This had to be some kind of trap. The Kellery were known for their strict social hierarchy and complex honor codes. Why would one of their women approach a human with such a desperate offer? I don't understand, he said, his voice hoarse. Why would you? Because I am dead either way, Zara interrupted, tears forming in her violet eyes. My people hunt me. They will drag me back to face breeding selection. I will be given to males I have never met, forced to bear children for the state. But if I carry your child, a human child, I become untouchable. Even in death, I will have chosen my own fate. The raw desperation in her voice made Marcus's chest tighten. He looked closer and saw the faint marks on her wrists where restraints had been. Fresh bruises colored her neck. She wasn't lying about being hunted. There has to be another way, Marcus said. Though his voice lacked conviction. Zara shook her head violently. You don't understand Kellery law? Once a female reaches breeding age, she belongs to the state. I tried to run, but they always find us. Always. She grabbed his arm with surprising strength. I have heard stories about humans. You choose your mates with your hearts, not through genetic planning. I want that choice, even if only for one night. Marcus felt the weight of her desperate hope pressing against his conscience. In her eyes, he saw not seduction, but the last gamble of someone with nothing left to lose. The smart thing would be to walk away. Humans had enough problems in this sector without getting involved in Keelar politics. But as he looked at her trembling hands and the silent plea in her violet eyes, Marcus realized he couldn't abandon her. Whatever this cost him, he couldn't let her face her fate alone. My ship is in docking bay 7, he said quietly. Follow me, but stay close. Relief flooded Zara's face like sunrise, breaking over a dark world. The hunters chased Zara, pressed close behind Marcus as they navigated the crowded corridors leading to the docking levels. Her heart hammered against her ribs, every shadow potentially hiding one of the enforcement hunters sent to retrieve her. The familiar weight of fear sat heavy in her stomach, but for the first time in months, she felt a flicker of hope. "Tell me about these hunters," Marcus said quietly as they descended a maintenance stairwell. "How many are we dealing with?" "3 that I know of," Zara replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Kellery enforcement officers. They have been tracking me for weeks. Across 4 systems." She paused, struggling with the words. "My father sent them." Marcus stopped walking and turned to face her. "Your father?" The pain in Zara's violet eyes deepened. "High Counselor Vex of the 3rd Breeding Collective. I am his only daughter, which makes me valuable breeding stock." The words tasted bitter in her mouth. "When I refused my assigned mate's selection, declared me in violation of species preservation law, they continued down the corridor." But Marcus could see the tension in every line of Zara's body. Her people's reproductive policies were legendary throughout the galaxy, but he had never heard them described from the perspective of someone trapped within them. "The Kellery population has been declining for 3 generations, Zara continued. "Our scientists say it's due to genetic bottlenecking, but the Council refuses to allow outside bloodlines. Instead, they control every aspect of reproduction. Females like me are assigned mates based on genetic compatibility charts. Love, choice, personal desire, and of that matters." Marcus felt anger building in his chest. "And if you refuse? Re-education camps first. If that fails, forced compliance." Zara's voice grew smaller. "I have seen what they do to women who resist. I would rather die free than live as a breeding slave." They reached Docking Bay 7. But as Marcus reached for his ship's access codes, Zara grabbed his arm. "Wait," she whispered, pointing toward the shadows near his cargo hauler. 3 tall figures in dark armor moved between the ships like hunting predators. Their faces were hidden behind reflective visors, but Marcus could see the distinctive silver and black uniforms of Kellery enforcement. They moved with mechanical precision, scanning each vessel methodically. "They found us," Zara breathed, terror flooding her features. Marcus pulled her back into the maintenance corridor. His mind raced through options. The hunters would search his ship, eventually, and station security wouldn't intervene in what they would see as internal Kellery affairs. They needed somewhere to hide. Somewhere the hunters wouldn't think to look. "I know a place," Marcus said, leading Zara deeper into the station's lower levels. "There's an old cargo bay that's been abandoned since the Centauri War. Some of the displaced refugees have been using it as temporary shelter. They move through service tunnels and forgotten corridors. The station's infrastructure growing older and more run down the deeper they went. Emergency lighting cast long shadows, and the air grew thick with the scent of recycled atmosphere and unwashed bodies." The abandoned cargo bay had been converted into a makeshift community. Families from a dozen different worlds had created small living spaces using salvaged materials and cargo containers. Children played between the improvised homes, while adults worked at portable terminals or cooked meals over heating units. An elderly human woman approached them, her gray eyes kind but cautious. "Marcus, what brings you down here?" "Alina, I need help," Marcus said simply. "This is Zara. She's running from people who want to hurt her." Alina studied Zara's frightened face and seemed to understand immediately. "Kellery hunters." When Zara nodded, Elena's expression hardened. "We've seen their kind before. Come, child. You'll be safe here," as Alina led them to a quiet corner behind a wall of stacked supply containers. Marcus watched Zara's rigid posture begin to relax slightly. For the first time since they'd met, she wasn't constantly looking over her shoulder. "Thank you," Zara said softly, settling onto a makeshift bed Alina had prepared. "I had forgotten what kindness felt like." Marcus sat beside her, careful to maintain some distance. "You're safe now. The hunters won't find you here." Zara turned to face him fully, her violet eyes reflecting the dim emergency lighting. "You didn't have to help me. Most humans avoid Kellery political problems. Most humans haven't looked into your eyes." Marcus replied without thinking, then felt heat rise in his cheeks at his own boldness. For the first time since they'd met, Zara smiled, a real smile that transformed her entire face. 3 days passed in the hidden refugee camp while the hunters searched the station above. Marcus found himself spending more time with Zara than he had originally intended. Drawn by her quiet intelligence and the way she helped Alina care for the younger children despite her own fears, "You're good with them," Marcus observed. Watching Zara teach a group of Altarian younglings a simple counting game. "I always wanted children of my own," Zara replied, her voice wistful. "But I wanted to choose their father, to raise them in love rather than genetic obligation." She looked at the children with such tenderness that Marcus felt something shift in his chest. That evening, Alina brought them news. The hunters left this morning. Word is they received orders to search the Epsilon station next. Relief flooded through both Marcus and Zara, but she didn't look entirely convinced. "They will be back," she said quietly. "My father doesn't give up easily." Marcus studied her profile in the soft light of Elena's lantern. 3 days of relative safety had allowed some of the constant tension to leave her shoulders, but he could see the fear still lurking in her violet eyes. "Tell me about your life before all this," Marcus said gently. "What was it like growing up as a counselor's daughter?" Zara's expression grew distant. "Privileged and empty," she said after a moment. "I had the finest education, the most beautiful clothes, access to art and literature from across our worlds. But every lesson, every experience was designed to make me a more valuable breeding partner. I learned 17 languages not for the joy of communication, but because multilingual children are considered genetically superior." She wrapped her arms around herself, as if trying to hold an old pain. "I had tutors instead of friends, genetic counselors instead of confidants. My 20th birthday wasn't celebrated. It was the day I was officially entered into the breeding registry." Marcus felt anger rising again at the casual cruelty of her upbringing. "That's not a life. That's preparation for imprisonment." "Yes," Zara agreed simply, "but I was too naive to understand that until it was almost too late." She turned to face him fully. "What about you? What made you choose the life of a trader?" Marcus considered his answer. "Freedom, I suppose. I grew up on Earth in a small farming community. Safe, predictable, but suffocating in its own way. I wanted to see the galaxy, meet different people, experience things beyond what I'd always known, and have you. Found what you were looking for?" Marcus looked at her in the flickering light, noting how her silver hair seemed to glow with its own inner radiance. "I'm beginning to think I didn't know what I was looking for until now." The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Zara's breath caught, and Marcus realized he had moved closer to her without thinking. The space between them seemed to hum with possibility. "Marcus," Zara whispered, her voice uncertain but not afraid. "I need you to understand something. What I offered you before in the marketplace, it came from desperation. But now, now, Marcus prompted gently. "Now I find myself wanting to offer you something else. Something that comes from choice rather than fear." Her words sent heat racing through Marcus's veins. He reached out slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away, and cupped her face in his hands. Her skin was warm and impossibly soft. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice rough with desire held in check. Instead of answering with words, Zara leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was tentative at first, then growing bolder as Marcus responded. Her hands found the front of his shirt, fingers curling into the fabric as if anchoring herself to him. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Zara's violet eyes were dark with want, but also with something deeper, trust, affection. The beginning of something that could become love. "I want this to be my choice," she said firmly. "Not because I'm running from something, but because I'm running toward something. Toward you." Marcus's heart hammered against his ribs as he understood what she was offering. Not desperate survival, but genuine desire. The gift of her trust, her body, her growing feelings. "Then yes," he said, pulling her close. "Yes to all of it." As their lips met again, Marcus knew that whatever happened next, this moment would change everything. In the safety of the hidden sanctuary, surrounded by the quiet sounds of families settling in for the night. They discovered that sometimes the most precious things come from the most unexpected places. The Stan Marcus woke to the sound of blaster fire echoing through the abandoned cargo bay. Beside him, Zara sat up instantly, her body rigid with familiar fear. The intimate warmth they had shared the night before evaporated as harsh reality, crashed back into their temporary sanctuary. "They found us," Zara whispered, her voice barely audible above the growing sounds of chaos outside their makeshift shelter. Through gaps in the stacked containers that formed their private space, Marcus could see Alina and other refugees scrambling to gather children and essential belongings. The distinctive whine of Kalari energy weapons grew closer with each passing. "Second, there's a maintenance shaft behind us," Marcus said, pulling on his clothes quickly. "We can make it to the upper levels and back to my ship." But as they prepared to run, a child's scream cut through the air. One of the Altarian younglings Zara had been teaching had been separated from her family in the panic. The little girl stood frozen in the center of the bay, while 3 armored Kellery hunters advanced on her position. "Move." Marcus grabbed Zara's hand, but she pulled away. "They're using her as bait," Zara said, her violet eyes blazing with sudden fury rather than fear. "They know I won't leave an innocent child to face their weapons." Marcus saw the trap immediately. The hunters had corralled most of the refugees to one side of the bay, but they had deliberately left the child exposed. They were counting on Zara's compassionate nature to draw her out of hiding. "Then we'll have to go through them," Marcus said grimly, checking the charge on his sidearm. Zara stared at him in shock. "You would fight Kalari enforcement officers? For me?" "For you. For that child. For the principle that people should be free to choose their own lives," Marcus replied, surprised by the conviction in his own voice. "I'm tired of running," before Zara could respond. Marcus stepped out from behind the containers with his hands raised but his weapon ready. The 3 hunters immediately trained their rifles on him, their faces hidden behind reflective visors. "I am Marcus Webb, human citizen of Earth," he called out in a voice that carried across the entire bay. "I claim protection rights for the Kalari female, Zara under Galactic Refugee Convention, Article 7. The lead hunter's mechanical voice echoed from his helmet speakers. "The female is Kalari property. Surrender her immediately or face the consequences." "She's not property," Marcus replied firmly. "She's a sentient being with the right to choose her own fate. Human interference in Kellery internal affairs is forbidden," the second hunter stated, but Marcus noticed they hadn't opened fire yet. The presence of so many non-Sheller witnesses was giving them pause. From behind the containers, Zara emerged to stand beside Marcus. Her fear was still visible, but it was overlaid with something stronger determination. "I reject Kellery authority over my life," she declared, her voice carrying clearly across the bay. "I choose exile rather than forced breeding." The lead hunter stepped forward menacingly. "You will return with us, Zara of the Third Collective. Your father's patience has limits. Then tell my father that his daughter died free." Zara replied with steel in her voice. The hunters raised their weapons, but before they could fire, the bay erupted in movement. Alina and dozens of other refugees surrounded the hunters, their own improvised weapons drawn. The Altarian families moved with coordinated precision while human traders flanked the Kalari from both sides. "This is refugee sanctuary," Alina called out, her elderly voice commanding despite the danger. "We protect our own here." The standoff stretched taut as wire. Marcus could feel the tension building toward an explosive confrontation. Then, unexpectedly, Zara stepped forward again. "Enough," she said, her voice cutting through the silence. "I'm tired of others fighting my battles." She looked directly at the lead hunter. "You want me? Come and take me. But know that I will never submit willingly to your father's plans." What happened next surprised everyone. The little Altarian girl, still standing in the center of the bay, suddenly ran toward Zara and wrapped her small arms around the Kellery woman's legs. One by one, other refugee children followed, surrounding Zara with their small bodies. The symbolic power of the moment was unmistakable. Here stood a woman who had risked everything for freedom, protected by the innocent lives she had touched with her kindness. The hunters, faced with the prospect of harming children to complete their mission, hesitated. In that moment of uncertainty, Marcus made his move. He stepped forward and wrapped his arms around Zara from behind, holding her close against his chest. "She's under my protection now," he said simply. "And I don't abandon the people I love." The word love hung in the air like a benediction. Zara leaned back against Marcus's strength, feeling safe for the first time in months. Around them, the refugees stood firm, united in their determination to protect one of their own. Faced with such unified resistance, the hunters slowly lowered their weapons. The lead hunter's voice crackled through his helmet speakers one final time. "This is not over, Zara of the Third Collective. Your father will not forget this defiance. Let him remember it," Zara replied, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "Let him remember that his daughter chose love over duty, freedom over fear." The hunters retreated, their heavy boots echoing against the metal flooring until they disappeared into the upper levels of the station. Only then did the refugees begin to relax, children emerging from hiding places while adults lowered their improvised weapons. Marcus turned Zara in his arms, studying her face in the dim emergency lighting. "Are you all right?" "I think so," she whispered, then smiled through her tears. "Actually, I think I'm better than all right. For the first time in my life, I feel free." Alina approached them, her weathered face creased with concern and pride. "The hunters will report back to the Kellari Council," Marcus said, his decision already made. "My ship is fueled and ready for deep space." Zara looked at him with hope and uncertainty warring in her violet eyes. "You would take me with you? Even knowing what it means? The danger, the exile from Kellari space, the constant risk of pursuit." Marcus cupped her face gently in his hands. "Zara, last night changed everything for me. What started as helping a desperate stranger has become something I never expected to find. Out here among the stars." He took a deep breath. "I love you. Not because of some desperate bargain in a marketplace, but because of who you are. Your courage, your compassion, your strength in the face of impossible circumstances. Marcus." Zara breathed, her voice full of wonder. "I love you too. I think I began falling in love with you the moment you chose to help me instead of walking away." Their kiss was witnessed by dozens of refugees, and spontaneous applause erupted throughout the cargo bay. Children laughed and clapped while their parents smiled at the victory of love over oppression. 2 hours later, Marcus's cargo hauler lifted off from Nexus 7 with Zara beside him in the co-pilot's seat. As the station fell away behind them, and the vast expanse of space opened ahead, she marveled at the view through the forward viewport. "I've never seen the stars from this perspective," she said softly. "Always through the filtered windows of passenger transports, or from the surface of worlds, where I wasn't allowed to stay." "Now you can see them every day," Marcus replied, reaching over to take her hand. "We can go anywhere you want. The outer colonies, the frontier worlds, places where no one cares about Kellari breeding laws or genetic registries." Zara squeezed his fingers, still amazed at the simple freedom to touch someone because she wanted to, rather than because she was ordered to. "I want to see Earth," she said. "I want to understand the world that raised a man willing to risk everything for a stranger's freedom." "Earth it is," Marcus agreed, setting course for the Sol system. "My family will love you. They've been trying to convince me to settle down for years." As their ship jumped to hyperspace and the stars stretched into lines of light around them, Zara settled into the rhythm of shipboard life with surprising ease. She learned to read stellar navigation charts, helped Marcus maintain the cargo systems, and discovered a talent for negotiating with alien traders at the ports they visited. More importantly, their love deepened with each passing day. What had begun as desperate attraction bloomed into genuine partnership. Marcus marveled at Zara's quick intelligence and natural empathy, while she found herself constantly surprised by his gentle strength and unwavering moral compass. 6 months later, as they sat together on the observation deck of Marcus's ship, Now their ship, watching a binary sunset paint an alien sky in shades of gold and crimson, Zara reflected on the journey that had brought them together. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked quietly. "Giving up your old life, taking on the complications that come with loving in exile?" Marcus pulled her closer, breathing in the sweet scent of her hair. "Never," he said firmly. "You didn't just ask me to save you that night in the marketplace. You saved me too. You showed me what I was really looking for all those years of wandering the galaxy. And what was that?" "Home," Marcus said simply. "I thought it was a place, but it turns out home is a person. Home is you." As the alien suns set behind distant mountains and the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Zara knew that she had found something more precious than freedom. She had found love, partnership, and a future built on choice rather than obligation. In the distance, their ship's communication system chimed with an incoming message from Earth Marcus's family, eager to meet the woman who had captured their son's heart. Zara smiled, ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited them among the stars. She had offered herself for one night just to survive, but Marcus had given her a lifetime of love instead.